So welcome here. Those of you who are watching this later, or those of you who are here now, welcome in. I always like to begin opening this space with a little bit of an invitation to come back home. And how we do that is by our breath. Um, I'm curious when I say to come back home, how that makes you feel. If you want to write it in the chat, I would love to hear. If I'm really honest, back in the day, I don't even know how many years ago, the idea of coming home scared me. Coming home to what? I would, I would, if I'm really honest, I'm going to be vulnerable here and say that's where I was those years ago. Like coming home to what? I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what my yeses and my nos were. I didn't really trust myself, um, like I do now. When I think of coming home, I, and it wasn't that I did these grand things to be able to come back home. It's literally taking the time to slow down and be more still in the moments of my day. Every day, I took some time for me. So I was not disconnected from me like I was before. If I'm like, I don't know who I am, what does that essentially mean? For me, that means that I am disconnected from myself. If I don't know who I am, I haven't spent the time to get to know Noelle. So I wonder in this new year, what a beautiful intention to set heading into the year of the horse, which is we are heading into the collective year of one. Collectively, as humanity, we were in a year nine. 2025 was a year nine. And though that's a year of there's 9 year cycles, and we nine year is the year of endings, of letting things go. If any of you felt heaviness in this last year,
Think those gummies help. You need to really try them. I'll show you. Let's get this one. We just had pizza.
um, then you were probably not alone in that. As I sat with clients this last year, there was a lot of heaviness around around releasing old habits and old patterns and being more self-aware of, oh, that's why I do that, or that's why this is happening. It's wanting to be released finally. So here we are heading into a year one, which is a year of new beginnings, new intentions, honoring what has died, what you have released, in order to give more space to what wants to flow into your life. And that's what I want to speak to today. But before we get there, if it's safe, go ahead and just close your eyes. If you can be still, sitting somewhere, that's even better. And just take a few deep breaths. Bring yourself here now. So when I say coming home, what that really means is being present. And the quickest, most beautiful way that I have experienced in coming home is to be with my breath. It's to tune in to how it feels to breathe in my body. Have I ever slowed down enough to really feel what it feels like to breathe in through my nose and out through my mouth? Right now, as I breathe, I'm breathing in the present moment. I can't breathe in the past and I can't breathe in the future. And yet we're doing it all the time in our thoughts. We're in other places than here. Um, so I just want to make sure if anyone's trying to get in here, I want to make sure that I'm seeing them. So, okay, if you've had a moment to bring some stillness in, I want to speak to you today about something that is what I speak to a lot, but it has a different texture now. Hold on, I'm going to move my notes over here a little bit so I can see if people are entering this space. Um, Thank you for being patient with me as I try to scoot this over. There we go. Um, okay. So When what I love to talk about and what I geek out on is quantum physics and spirituality, and how these two seemingly opposing, um, I would say, lenses, ways to look at the world and experience life. They seem like they are far on different spectrums from each other. Like science would be way over here and spirituality would be way over here. But what I'm seeing now and experiencing is that science now we're dipping into and learning more and more about quantum physics, and how quantum physics explains reality is basically explaining spirituality. So the fact that everything is energy and our thoughts, our very thoughts carry energetic frequency. So what the ancient mystics knew without, maybe they knew about quantum physics, maybe they knew all about the quantum particles and everything, but I would like to think that they knew the laws of the universe because they put them into action and it worked. They didn't need to scientifically explain it because they were living it. And what they were living was knowing that they were creating their reality through their thoughts and their feelings. Their experiences of life were based on what they were thinking and believing and feeling. So I ask you, how many of you have thought about this concept? Maybe you've heard it because people are talking about it now. Finally, thankfully, that we are having a better grasp of the laws of the universe is everything's based on energy. So if everything's based on energy, and I repeat this quote because it's so beautiful. And Nikola Tesla was a physicist who and a scientist who believed so firmly in quantum physics. And he said, if you want to understand how our universe functions, the secrets of our universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So everything has a frequency and a vibration. Music has frequency and vibration. We can't see it, but it has sound waves that are flowing through the atmosphere all the time. And what we hear is what we're tuned into. But guess what? There's so much more out there in the field that is waving through frequencies that we can't see or hear or touch. So we don't know that they exist until we start to play around with quantum physics. And when I say play around with that, let's talk about this. So I have people ask me a lot in my practice as a therapist. When I say our thoughts create our reality. So as a therapist, I was trained clinically, but also spiritually. So I love to weave these two concepts together because they really do go together. They're not opposing each other. They're actually supporting each other. So I love it when I can help people see and kind of cut through the illusions of their stories. If they tell themselves the narrative that I have ADD and I can't focus, or I'm sick and I've had this sickness for my whole life, or whatever that you believe to be true, do you notice how that shows up in your reality? What if we were to shift what we're thinking about, what we're giving our attention to? It's energy. The energy we are giving towards the attention of our thoughts that we are a certain way is our world of words, and we will live in that world because how it works is the frequency of our thought, frequency precedes form or matter. So everything we look at around you, here's an experiment. Look around you wherever you are and notice all the things. Everything that we see in our reality must have been formed in a thought before it came into form in matter. Does that make sense? So everything you see, like, oh, there's a cup over there. That cup, someone thought of it, that color, that shape, before it was created into the matter that it is. Someone had to think it first, and someone had to think of everything before it was created. So it's not any different in our realities. What we're thinking about, what we're giving our attention to, be aware that is creating what you're looking at in reality. And everyone, this is what's so strange and beautiful and cool about quantum physics is you start to delve into the truth. Everyone has their own reality. It's almost like we're walking around with virtual reality goggles on, and we all have our own perspective of reality. So I could be watching a movie with 10 other people and then at the end of the movie say, what did that movie mean to you? Each person is going to have a different perspective of what they saw in the movie. Yes, there's going to be overlap, but mostly what they're noticing is what they perceive life to be. Have you ever been around people that constantly notice the negative in any situation? They're constantly saying, well, this was awful, or did you notice that? Or they weren't doing that right, or this should have been different. There is energy in in their field around them that is it's sending out a signal of what they're giving attention to, and it will bring back the same frequency of energy. And what that's doing for their reality is showing them, mirroring back to them, you are someone who believes that it should be different, or that this isn't good, or they're not doing that right, or this should be controlled in a different way. Can you see the energy of that? It's negative energy, and it will continue to bring back the same negative energy. What we are experiencing right now in our lives is just a culmination of the last months and hours and days of our beliefs, of what we're thinking, what we're giving our attention to. On the converse of that, have you ever been around people where there's peace? You feel their energy and there is peace. There is like abundance, and there is enoughness, and there's stability, because what they're giving their attention to in any situation in life is, oh, that's beautiful. I love how they did that. This is hard, but I trust myself to get through this. This is part of how I learn and grow. That's why I'm here. There's a completely different energy between those two. These are on the spectrum, and then there's everything in between. When we're not aware of the energy of our thoughts, they will remain the same, and our reality will continue to try to show us what we believe to be true. So then life becomes our ally if we're willing to actually look at it. If we don't like our reality, that is good news, because then we get to shift it on what we're thinking, what we're giving our attention to. Our experience of every situation will be according to what we're seeing it through. So if I'm like, oh, this is so beautiful. Oh, I love that they did this. Or I love, if it's the energy of support and love and compassion and not judgment and abundance, that will be your experience with that person, or with this experience at work, or anything in life. All of life will be through the lens of your perspective. So, what are we giving our attention to? So, like I said, people will ask, you know, well, our thoughts create our reality. That's a huge concept. So I want to reverse engineer this for us today. And I want to talk about those micro moments when we're actually in a habit of thought. If we're not, because 95% of everything we are thinking and believing and reacting to all day long through all of our lives, 95% is below our awareness, subconscious. It lives in our subconscious mind. So that can be daunting when we believe that we can't control that. We can become more subconscious dominant, meaning more aware, when we slow down and start to wonder, oh my goodness, I can see how I'm thinking that thought and it's judging someone, or I can see how I am resisting what's actually happening right now because I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable. Or I'm thinking about this illness that I might have, or what the doctor's going to say, and I'm so consumed by that and the fear of how this could actually be that I'm actually drawing more negative energy towards me rather than trusting that I'm a big enough being to be still and give attention and energy towards positive thoughts, softer thoughts, thoughts that are more aligned with who I truly be, which is not human. Yes, I am a human being, but I am a soul having this experience so I can learn and grow and remember that I am a soul that came here to have this experience. We all are. Okay, so in those micro moments, that's what I want to talk about. If our thoughts really are energy, like little packets of energy sending out messages all the time to bring back like energy, how can I shift in those micro moments? Like, so I like to call it a hinge moment. When we see doors, they have hinges, right? So they can swing open and closed. Sometimes in our lives, we have hinge moments that are really swinging big, like a 180-degree change. Some people say they make a decision. They're like, I'm not going to live that way anymore. I'm not going to suffer anymore. I am empowering myself to make a different choice and decide a new way to be. Wow, those are huge moments. And they make a 180 in their life. We see that happen a lot. And sometimes that happens to us, but mostly it's not a 180 hinge moment. It's a little, like maybe 10 degrees, 5 degrees, maybe 20 degrees, right? A hinge moment where we actually catch ourselves in awareness and say, "Oh, I'm thinking a negative thought right now. I can feel it in me. It feels heavy or it's contracted. I don't like that. How can I change this feeling? Well, our feelings get changed through our thoughts. What are we thinking? We think before we feel. We have a feeling about what we're thinking about. So we go to the thought. And in that hinge moment, for example, I'm going to give you some examples because um, I think it's important, these hinge moments. Okay, I'm going to give you examples. So when I am believing, like, let's say I had a really great day and I was like, wow, that day was so awesome. That's the best day ever. In just believing or thinking that's the best day ever, like, can you see how I want to invite you to lean into this energetically? I'm still limiting myself in the belief that it's the best day ever and that maybe it's not going to get better than that. Like, that's as good as it gets. And I'm limiting myself by that thought without even knowing I'm limiting myself. If I, in that hinge moment, can say, what a beautiful day, tomorrow's going to be even better. Can you see the difference there? It's just a hinge moment. And do you see as time goes forward, and our reality expands, we're in a very different place than that hinge moment because we chose to think more, less limited, more unlimited. Like, you know what? Show me, universe, how much better it keeps getting. Can you feel the spaciousness in that? So, um, I'm going to give you some examples about this. So, an example of integrating this teaching of the hinge moments when we breathe. Okay, the thought is when we come to the top of our breath, some of you may think if it stops shallow, that's all there is. That's all there is. I can only breathe to here. If our thought is that's all there is, we literally are limiting ourselves energetically, realistically, like right in that moment by thinking that's all there is. I can't go further than that. Okay, our breath will stay right there. If the thought is there might be a little more available, your body actually opens. Energetically, it's opening. Nothing changed except the assumption, your thought, that it can actually open a little bit more. And guess what? Your body obeys belief instantly. Our subconscious mind is obedient. It is not a judge. It doesn't say, well, that's right, that's wrong, that's not good. Why are they saying that? That's not true. It doesn't do that. It's very childlike and it is obedient. It will respond to the energy of our thoughts and feelings. And our subconscious has this beautiful system called the reticular activation system, the RAS. And within that system is the energetics that sends out a signal. It's like a receiver, it's like a radio receiver. And what it's doing is it's always sending out, broadcasting a message. And it's what it's broadcasting is the message of our thoughts and our feelings, the energy. It will take those thoughts and feelings obediently and it will send out a signal to out into the open unified field where all of our thoughts are living. They're all swimming around there together collectively. And it will bring back exactly the match to the energy that's being sent out. So you can only tune into the channel that you're broadcasting on. Does that make sense? So when we get curious about why do I keep getting these experiences in my life, we'll pay attention because there's more there. There's more to pay attention to when we're like, what actually am I thinking and believing? It must be tied to my my thoughts and my feelings. My reality is. So that's one example, our breath. I'm going to keep going here. How many of you have been in a conversation with someone and in your mind while they are talking, you're thinking while you're listening, oh, I already know. I know what they're going to say. They do this all the time. It's going to be the same thing, right? We've all been guilty of that, where we just kind of shut down because we think we're assuming that it will be the same interaction. And just that thought, oh, I already know, presence collapses. And now you are living in your thought that you already know that what they're going to say. So why listen? But when you're listening with the thought, there's something here that I haven't heard yet. Maybe it's something energetically, maybe it's below their words. It's something, if I slow down and I'm present, I'm going to receive. Now I'm a receiver because I'm open. We can't be a receiver if we're not open. We collapse receiving, the ability to receive, receivership, when we think we already know. There's no magic that can happen. There's no connection that can happen. There's no presence that you're standing in when you think you already know what they're going to say. So our connection actually deepens with the same person, same conversation, a different reality because we haven't assumed we already know. Can you see the difference in that hinge moment? Oh, yeah, I already know. It shuts down. And there you are, two people disconnected because you're not willing to actually listen and hear and receive what is being said. Okay. Another example is when we go out into nature. And if we think, oh, I'm just going to go on a walk. That's our intention. We're going out on a walk and we're walking outside. It will be a very neutral experience because we're in our mind. We're just like, yeah, I'm just out on a walk. We're missing all the things. Something here, if we walk with the intention, with the awareness, right? You're bringing awareness here and intention before you ever step out. And we can do this on everything in our lives, and it will change how we show up. It'll change, it will make us more present. But if we go out with the intention, something here wants to meet me. What in nature wants to communicate with me? Because I promise you, life is always communicating with us. Are we receiving the message or are we shutting down by our thoughts, our limiting thoughts? So aliveness emerges when we are open to the idea that something wants to communicate with me. Now we're watching, and nature mirrors our openness, and things start to get our attention. Little synchronicities, maybe a special animal that you're like connected with shows up, a hummingbird or a deer or something really sweet that wants to give you a message because yes, animals do carry medicine and messages if you believe they do. Okay, another example is receiving support. Now, this is interesting one for a lot of women that I work with because we have been raised in wounded energies, masculine and feminine energies. And just really briefly, I'll touch into what wounded masculine looks like. It's what we've been living in for most of our lives, if not all of our lives, is a wounded masculine energy is up and out. It's penetrative, it's out, and it's trying to control and manipulate all the circumstances in life that feel scary so they can feel more comfortable. That is a wounded masculine. And I call it, when I step into that energy, because that energy is very familiar to me. I grew up watching my mom and all the women in my life were living in this energy, including me. I call it General Noel. I was General Noel. And that energy for me felt like over efforting, trying to control and manipulate outcomes so I could feel safer and at peace. It was competing with others. It was looking sideways to try to compare instead of just checking in with myself. Can you see how disconnected I was from myself? No wonder I didn't know who I was. I was constantly outer focused, hyper focused in a wounded masculine way, trying to dictate everything around me so I could feel safe, when actually it's the opposite of that. When conscious masculinity starts to live in you, it actually grounds you down and it creates stability and structure for yourself, for you to come home to yourself. There must be a conscious masculine container for the feminine to live in, the conscious feminine. Now, the wounded feminine is isolating and it internalizes wounds and says, "Oh, that's my bad. I'm sorry." It's over apologizing or hiding or playing small. And I grew up with that as well. I would way rather be hiding right now than doing this. But there's a part of me that knows and has received feedback from others. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for offering this. And it's what I'm so passionate about. I really truly love to talk about these things and feel into it and wonder what your experience is with it, because it's so fascinating to me, because it's what we're here for. We're here to live and we're here to learn, and through our experiences we gather our wisdom. If we're not willing to feel, how can we ever experience being human? So, receiving support. I'm going back to this example. If the belief is, this is all I'm allowed to receive as help from others or help from myself or love or compassion or anything, if we limit it and think, oh, well, that's enough. You don't need to do any more, or I can't receive more. I don't deserve that. Support caps out at what we believe we're worth receiving, right? But if the belief is life can meet me in brand new ways, there's abundance in the universe always, and it's always supporting me and guiding me. Can you feel the difference there? Then you're opening. What are we opening to? We're opening our energy to receive more. If we're contracted, if our energy is contracted, how much is getting in here? It's really narrow. Can you see that? When we open, we're literally opening energy to receive. We're becoming a receiver, which is a very conscious feminine energy of receiving. Now we're receiving, we're open to receiving guidance and help and compassion from ourselves and others. And life never withholds. The more we open, the more there is to receive. That's the beauty, and it's worth experimenting with. We literally close the door when we assume that that's it. That's as much. And literally what we're doing, if I don't know where you guys all are at in your belief system about God or the universe or source, but this I have come to feel into over and over too many times. And as I sit with clients, their own experience with source is that part of why we are here and we are conditioned, we are given the conditions to live as a human being through our family, through our parents, through our caregivers and the mentors and the adults in our lives as little kids. Our belief system as children is given to us. Here, this is what you believe. This is how life is, right? And if we consistently believe that belief system without ever questioning, wait, is that true? I felt like I was less than growing up, or whatever our story is, that will be true for our whole life unless we turn towards that belief and ask some questions. Is it true that my needs don't matter? Or that I'm not a receiver? I don't know how to receive or communicate or anything. If we keep telling ourselves in our world of words, that's the way we are, we will continue to be that way. So when we open the energy, it's a conscious feminine thing. And if we haven't done it, I invite you to experiment with being a receiver, opening up just a little more in your thoughts, in your beliefs about life, about everyone in your life, about yourself. See what magic can start arriving when you open up just a little bit more. Another way that this shows up is in our creative abilities, our creative expression. If we are creating with, this is probably all I've got, like whether we're writing or drawing or singing or playing music or dancing or whatever it is that lights you up. When we step into that space, limiting ourselves, like, well, I'm not really good at this, or I don't know what to do, we're contracting that energy. When we start creating with more is moving through me, I can't wait to see what arrives here. Creativity is generated more and more. Now we're in the flow. It's received. We become a channel that widens open because we're available for it. Does that make sense? I hope these examples are landing, one or the other, some of them or all of them. I hope they are. So, back to source. So when I say, so in order to do this, I have to say, for me, part of coming home to myself and trusting myself, the more I realize, the more I've trusted myself to be safe. Safety for me means that I am staying present with all of my emotions, no matter how uncomfortable they may seem. And the more I do that, the more I get to know Noelle, because I am the one who stays. I'm not the one running anymore. I'm not the one numbing out. I'm not distracting myself. I'm staying present with my breath to feel, to be fully alive, to let it flow in, as gross and awful and shitty as it may feel. I am safe to feel. I know this about myself now because I've done it enough. And when I do that, it opens me up and suddenly I'm one with source. How does that work? I think it's the energy of trusting myself to be safe, to feel, and suddenly I'm open to receive more beauty. Even though I'm feeling things that are heavy, somehow in my compassion, in my empowerment, I empower myself when I stay. I'm not abandoning myself anymore. I'm staying present with all of my feelings. When I feel the depth of my grief, it opens me up energetically to receive higher heights of joy and love and compassion. All the things that I was over efforting and seeking by thinking that I needed to do something more to receive those emotions and those feelings. It's not that. It's not an up and out thing. That's the way that we were taught. And it's wounded and it's masculine wounded by thinking that I must do more action or effort more to receive. The universe is not that way. The way the energy of the universe is as I slow down and come back home and anchor down in, root down, like back and down into myself back home, it's there. It's there that I become a receiver. And suddenly everything opens up. And now I can trust myself. And now I feel that connection to source. And I start to remember that I've never been separate from source. Never. I was only conditioned to believe that it was something out here, something that I needed to pray to, something that I needed to be more obedient to be worthy of. And that for me, in my lived experience, isn't true anymore. The more I stay, the more I don't abandon myself, the more I create an alliance with the only person who can never leave me, that's been with me through all the iterations of me, through all the sorrow, through all the joy. It's me. So now I'm creating a connection, an alliance with the one person who can never leave me. And since I am not separate from source, I am source. We all are. We're all connected because we're all connected to source. We're all one. So if I'm judging anything, any person outside of me, I'm judging me first. So if I can reverse that and say, where are the places in me where I'm still judging me? When I can get more, like, I think of it as radical self-responsibility. The more I'm willing to slow down and turn in and tune in and say, why does that bother me so much that they're doing that? Ah, it has nothing to do with them. It's bothering me because the energy that's triggering me is trying to show me, life is in its benevolence trying to show me where I'm still not free. If I'm triggered by something, I'm not free. It still lives in me and I'm blaming something out there for it. So when I come home and say, ah, of course I feel that way. I remember when I was younger, something like that happened and it triggered me back then. And so now I'm being triggered again, graciously, because now I have the tools and the resources to trust myself that I'm safe to stay and feel this trigger so I can bring it, I can accept it now. I can bring it back home to my heart and let it release and now become part of me because I'm accepting that I used to believe that and I don't anymore. I'm not hard on myself anymore. I'm giving more grace to myself. I'm more compassionate with all the versions of me that made mistakes while she was learning how to be me now. And I'm still doing that over and over until I get to align with the wholeness of me. And we can do that in every now moment. Every now moment is where our power lies. When we start trusting ourselves to stay and be safe to feel, we become one again with Source, the thing we've never been separate from. And we start to live our lives with awareness and intention. And can you imagine the ripple, the broadcast, the energy, the signal, whatever you want to call it, that goes out and what it's bringing back in now is abundance and compassion and love and receiving and all the stuff that we truly are. We are not here to suffer. Our true nature is not suffering. Our true nature, connected to source, never separate from it, is all the things that we believe deity is. And we are that. So when we start believing that, we start living in a very different reality. So, does anyone have questions about this? I want to leave time now in our last like 15 minutes. I really like to keep this to 1 hour. I'd love to leave this open for anyone who has anything in their lives right now that feels like it's a roadblock or a challenge or a pattern that keeps coming up, something that there's resistance around, something that they're uncomfortable with. Um, I would love to, you can put it in the chat or if you feel brave enough and want to open up your mic and your video and speak, I would love to support you in any way. Um, that's what I'm here for. And if not, I'll just keep talking for 15 minutes or 10 minutes, maybe a little bit more, maybe not even that long. I want to wrap this up and make it short and sweet instead of long that people are like, wait, this is too long. One thing I do want to speak to is the energy of gratitude. So when, and this is interesting because this thought came to me the other day as I was sitting there meditating. And mostly when I meditate now, it's so interesting. It just even came to me as I'm speaking this. In the years that I started meditating in silence, I would weep, I would cry, and I would cry because all of the emotions that I had shoved down for my whole life, not even knowing that I was shoving those feelings down, I was not aware of that. We don't know what we don't know. So back in my old energy, the older version of me, um, I would repress emotions because it felt too heavy. I didn't feel like I had the capacity to be able to hold space for myself, apparently. And so I would shove it all down. So when I finally slowed down and became more still and silent, guess what started coming up? A lot of my old trauma. And I didn't shame it, I just allowed it to be. And it flowed up and up and up for years. Every time I would sit, I would literally weep. And I knew it was sacred because I knew I was releasing what had been repressed for years, for most of my life. So I did give myself a lot of compassion. But I notice now when I sit in stillness, there's a very different energy that arrives. And what that is gratitude. I feel deep, deep gratitude as my heart is opening more and more and more. It is a receiver of gratitude. And when gratitude brings tears, I'm like, I'm so grateful. Thank you. And I'm speaking without speaking energetically with source, right? I'm opening up to all that is. And I'm saying, thank you so much for this, for what I'm learning and what I've learned. And I'm so grateful for my life and all of the things, right? And then I've asked, who am I giving thanks to? Who am I actually speaking to right now? And it's interesting because I think that for me, I used to speak to an entity that was very different in my mind. Now, as I sit there feeling so connected, I realize I'm speaking to source of which I am not separate from. So I am part of that gratitude. Thank you, Noelle, for being someone who stays, finally, stays to feel, stays to be human, stays to be fully alive, to feel the depths of your emotion, the grief and the mourning and the rage and the frustration, the resentment, all of that, because I know as I open myself to that, I'm opening myself to more expanded love and compassion and abundance. When I was numbed out, I chose, I don't know if I consciously chose it or if it was subconscious. I thought I can't feel those heavy feelings, so I will just not feel them. What I didn't understand is when you are numbing out, you are not just numbing out sadness, you're numbing out everything. You're numbing out joy and happiness and liberation and abundance. You're numbing out everything. You can't pick and choose what you numb out. So, being willing to be open and receive your emotions as they come to teach you. They're teaching you wisdom. We're here to live, we're here to experience life. If we're not willing to experience our emotions, what are we gathering? We're just here like robots. So, why not live? Why not be fully present? Because when I open myself to gratitude, I realize I am not separate from life. I'm not separate from anyone or anything or source. And gratitude is one of the highest vibrating emotions, and it opens us up to more receiving if we will open up to it. And gratitude in every now moment, it dissolves our separateness, believing that we're disconnected or separate from source. Okay. So, in a nutshell, I just want to reiterate the energy of our thoughts is real. The energy of our thoughts creates our emotions, and our emotions are the signals that get sent out that create our reality. So when we're willing to sit with heavy emotions, they stop battering us with the energy of, oh, I can't do this. And it's we stop contracting and we start opening up to life. I invite you to play around with energy, the energy of your thoughts and how they make you feel. In order to do that, we must slow down just a bit. Is there any time in your days when you actually are able to be more still? I invite you to take time every day, even if it's just 3 minutes to sit and be more still and bring awareness to, oh, how am I feeling? Our feelings are our rudders. They're our guides in life. If we are contracted and shut down, pay attention. We must be believing or thinking something contrary to our truth, or we wouldn't be contracting. So, what do we do in those moments when we're feeling contracted? We have a softer thought. What would that look like? If I'm worried about finances and I'm in my mind like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do about this? Can you feel the contraction? It's like fear. Really, when it comes down to like the basics, we're either choosing love or fear. That's it. So when I'm choosing fear, believe me, I know what that feels like in my body because I did it my whole life and didn't even know I was doing it. I was contracted and suffering and blaming other people for my pain instead of saying, whoa, 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 let me get a reality check here. The truth is, if I am blaming anything outside of me for how I feel, I'm a victim. And victim energy is based in fear. Fear that someone can take something from me, from my soul. Fear that someone's going to make me feel a certain way when I am in charge of choosing how I feel. Do you see that distinction? Versus love. So if I'm worried about finances and I'm creating a softer thought after I notice the contraction around fear, I can say, okay. Yes, right now in my reality, I may not have all of the abundance that I know I can have access to, but guess what? I am starting to change my thoughts about that because I know and I trust that I'm never separate from source, and source is perfectly abundant, which means I am abundant. Source is perfect love, which means I am perfect love. And when I can sit in that awareness, everything starts to shift out of contraction and into what? Expansion. Now I'm expanding my thoughts and my feelings, and now the signal I'm sending out is bringing in more abundance because I'm open to it. I haven't contracted. Does that make sense? Everything we want and desire is not upstream. We don't have to effort. We don't have to move toward it or make steps toward it. That's the old wounded masculine, like I must do more action. No, it's contrary. It's the opposite of what we saw modeled growing up. It's the opposite of what we were taught. Everything that we desire and yearn for in our lives is downstream. Downstream, which means you don't have to effort it. You don't need to know how it's going to arrive. It already exists. It already exists in the quantum field of possibility. But we are giving all our attention to this life and its suffering. So guess what we're living in? That's our reality because we're focusing on what we don't like. Focus on what you desire and what you love, what you're grateful for, and see your life open up, literally open up to receive the flow. Now you're in the flow, flowing towards the things that you're aligning with on the frequency of those things. And guess what? They're coming towards you too. Just because you can't see them in your reality yet does not mean that they don't exist in the quantum field. All all infinite possibilities. You can't even imagine because it's infinite. It's unlimited possibilities for you to receive if you believe you will. If you believe that everything is there and you get to access it through your downstream living by having softer thoughts and more open thoughts and more energetically aligned with source thoughts, you're already there. You're calling it in so quick because you know that it's just a matter of time where it will show up in your reality because you're not contradicting yourself. You're not shut down. You're open. You're completely open to receive. Okay. I hope some of this made sense for you. I hope some of it resonated with you. If I could say anything to close this today, I would give you the invitation and in as many moments as you can in your days to bring awareness to how you're feeling. This is the key. Your emotions literally will become your guide. If you can notice, oh, I'm contracting right now. I must have been thinking fearful thoughts, thoughts of lack or scarcity, assuming that, yeah, it'll never get better. Do you see the closure there, energetic closure? You can't receive when you're closed. Literally, you can't receive. So if I'm aware that I'm contracted, that's good because it means then I have a decision to make right there in that moment. Am I going to choose fear still or am I willing to open to love? It's a kind of an experiment. It's kind of a fun experiment. Like set your hypothesis and see what arrives when you open up with a softer thought. So that's the question. People get down to the nitty gritty. Okay, so I'm aware of how I'm feeling and it's contracted. Then what? What you do literally is choose a softer thought. If I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm never going to make money, I'm not going to make rent or whatever, that's contracted. If I say, what's a softer thought than that? You know what? Right now, I am experiencing not having enough, but I know how the universe works now. It's energy. When I think that I will never have enough, that thought carries the energy of closure because it's based in fear, lack, scarcity, and it closes me down. And now I can't receive. I'm not a receiver. If I open and say, but I do know how it works. So my softer thought is, it will not be long before abundance starts to flow to me because I know I am abundant and abundance will match abundance. So if I trust that I am never separate from source, the more I speak to source, the more I speak to myself with compassion and gratitude, I'm opening to all the abundance that's now starting to flow towards me. And your thoughts keep getting softer and softer, more compassionate, less abandonment, self-abandonment. Everything shifts and changes. So that is the key. In as many moments as you can in a day, pay attention to how you're feeling. Am I contracted? Am I open? It's as simple as that. Contracted or open? If you're contracted, what's a way to open me up just a little bit, the door just a little bit more to receive? That's all. And then you'll get really, really good at it because it doesn't take long to create a new neural pathway. That's the thing about epigenetics and neuroplasticity. All the science finally says and supports that our brain is always growing and it's always changing according to what we believe it can. So if we're like, you know what? I want to experiment with my mind opening up to receive more thoughts, more synchronicities, more beliefs that are softer about myself. it will be that way. So you, in those moments saying contraction, the softer thought opens not just my energy, but my ability to create new pathways of openness. And now your brain is your ally. It stops telling you lies that were based on your childhood that were never true. And now you're stepping into your liberation. Your next chapters are going to be your best chapters. Trust that. It's only getting better from here. Okay. Thank you for being here. If you have any final thing you would like to ask or say or put in the chat, I would love to hear from you, or even after, if you want to reach out to me privately or on DM, please do so. I would love to hear how some of this landed for you. Thank you for being here today. I am still creating online. Thank you, Amy. I love you too. Um, I'm still creating online courses that they keep shifting. I keep thinking I'm going to do it, and then another thing comes in, and I'm like, oh, I think I need to do a course around this. So it's forthcoming, and I think it will mostly be around female embodiment, meaning coming back home to your body, like paying attention to your emotions is being embodied because you're in your body, able to feel your emotions and let them guide you. Oh, I'm contracted. I'd rather be open. Okay, now we're embodied. I've lived most of my life from my neck up, thinking, 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 thinking that I've done the work, thinking that I'm doing ancestral trauma healing and all of that. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I thought I already did this. That's right. I thought it. I wasn't in my body. Since most of our trauma is actually trauma, by definition, is unfelt emotions, emotions unprocessed. So our emotions come in and we contract and they can't move. They stay stuck. So when we're crying, we're literally releasing the chemicals of our trauma. Cry, release, scream, yell. It wants to move. It's energy in motion is emotion. It comes in, it wants to go out. It doesn't want to stay. It ends up being energy that has to do something. And so it becomes diseased because it's not disease. And it ends up ruining our physical bodies because we've held the vibration of discord and contraction for too long. So open up your heart, open up your emotions, let it flow through you, let yourself cry, let yourself feel, be fully alive, and see what starts to shift. Okay, I love you. Thank you. I see there's another question. Thank you. Thanks, Karen. Thank you for being here. And I will see you in 2 weeks. We'll be doing this again on the 23rd. Okay, thank you, and ciao for now.